Swing, Untold, Breakpoint, Beckham, and so many more. Netflix has the stories for every kind of fan. Netflix Sports turns us all into fans.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard.
Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope. And they're fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make it fun and engaging, so you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life. You can choose from topics like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Plus, Babbel's lessons are designed to get you speaking right away. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations.
Just 3 weeks? Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers, you'll get the accents just right and be able to carry on conversations with confidence.
Learning a language with Babbel doesn't take long.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard.
It's perfect.
And now, try Babbel free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
This portion of SiriusXM NFL Radio is brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the NFL. Visit sleepnumber.com.
It's Mad Dog Unleashed with Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Hear the passion.
Be aggressive. Get something done.
Hear the knowledge.
The game, folks, is about two plays, and that's what it comes down to.
Hear the personality.
I'm going to start here in an angry mood.
Got somebody on the radio that has made him a sports talk legend.
Does that make any sense to you? Guys, you're crazy.
It's Mad Dog Unleashed with Christopher Russo. Weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern on Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82, or anytime on the SiriusXM app.
Get the SiriusXM app and listen on your phone when you get out of the car. Anywhere you take your phone, you can take Howard Stern, NFL Radio, and commercial-free music channels from nearly every genre. Channels vary by subscription plan. You never have to miss your favorite SiriusXM programs or commercial-free music. Find the SiriusXM app in the App Store or call 844-711-8800 or visit SiriusXM.com/app to find out more.
Next with the R&B and hip-hop that's hot now. Slamming you out, slamming you out. Discover who's next. And stay up on the culture.
Cause Drake don't know how to kiss and not tell.
On the heat.
Girl, your BD is a zero. My backshot sound like bongo.
Channel 46 and on the SiriusXM app. Included in all trials and popular plans.
To hear this channel, activate your radio by calling 844-711-8800 or visit SiriusXM.com/go.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see.
Amazing moments happen so much at SiriusXM. We want you to see them. SiriusXM Video lets you watch your favorite SiriusXM shows on the SiriusXM app. Groundbreaking interviews, amazing in-show moments, behind-the-scenes footage, live performances, all come to life in a way you only imagined before. Plus, you can create your own personalized Pandora station based on the artists you love. And hear over 100 extra channels filled with ad-free music for every mood or occasion. Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $8.33 per month, plus fees and taxes. Just call 844-711-8800 to take advantage of this amazing offer.
What are you listening to in the morning? Visit www.SiriusXM.com/go to sign up online quickly and activate your radio. Imagine waking up to the biggest names in morning entertainment. Howard Stern, Today Show Radio, news from CNN, Fox News, Bloomberg, NPR, or sports talk on NFL, MLB, NASCAR radio, and more. Visit www.SiriusXM.com/go to sign up online quickly or call 844-711-8800 now. Activate your radio and begin exploring more than 140 channels.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you, as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 0181486.
Rondo Deportes, bonjour, veni vidi vici, let's get ready to rumble! Welcome to the show. My name is Jonathan of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, or the #1 network in the United States of America. Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe. According to me, and people who love the universe, and that would be you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! You know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, I told you, I've been saying since I thought I was very happy to win the Neighborhood Watch President Award, and I was supposed to bring all the neighbors together. But when I do it at 3 o'clock in the morning, people don't like it. So I guess I don't do too well at bringing people together, if that makes sense to you. On a beautiful November the 16th, today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them sit you where the good Lord split you. You know, I had a dream. I had a lot of dreams last night. And I had a dream that I was in church, and the pastor, he was asking for the tithe. And during the moment of asking for the tithe, he said, after you pay the tithe, he said, sit you where the good Lord split you. It was funny. Give him some praise. It was funnier when he said it, because I said he was asking people for the tithe. He said, after you pay the tithe, he said, tell the good Lord to sit you where the good Lord split you. Give me my time is off. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 29 podcast applications all over the universe. And Google, Alexa, Spotify, Speaker Podcast, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio Podcast, TuneIn Podcast, Good Podcast, Amazon Podcast, Castbox Podcast, Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict, Podchaser. You can also follow Big C Sports on Geo Saban Podcast out of India and Africa, as well as London, England, Podtail, YouTube, Hubhopper, Stitcher Podcast, Radio Line, Freepod Podcast, Luminary Podcast, Missing Notes, Podcast Wise, Podbay, Global Podcast, Podcast Podacy, Podcast Republic, and then there's one that used to scare me. It's called Allfeast.ai. Give that some praise. The robots are taking over. I don't think I'm going to praise robots are taking over. You can also follow Big C Sports Podcast streaming OTT on 4 TV platforms all over the universe: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. And I really do appreciate that. I love doing what I do with Big C Sports Podcast. I love paying homage to the Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced, helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know, anybody going through issues, pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give it some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. We all need somebody to lean on. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then God said, let there be light. And let there be light all over the universe. Let there be light like an epiphany. Let it rain down from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let there be light. Let there be light all over the world. I want to tell you this Big C Sports Podcast. I I try to shine my light in the world. I always produce. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I use all the platforms, the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We can all use more laughter in our lives. Of course, we can all use more laughter in our lives. I'm telling you, the commercials are done. I do my commercials all up front. Most shows, if they're an hour, they have 3 or 4 pauses. Well, they're running 2 or 3 spots. Mine go up front. I just keep going and going and going and going. Like my pastor said, sit you where the good Lord split you. After you pay the tithe, of course. And then I'm telling you, I do the stats providing. I do the storytelling. I even do the play-by-play. I upload every show. It goes out to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City. And I'm in Dimdale Hills, California. And then I'm telling you, number 4, I bet that's number 9. It goes out to 10. Listen up. I've never missed a show. That's 10 items I just named off. I never missed a show with Big C Sports. Starting back in the days at Salem Media. I never missed a show. And now we have people that miss a day in practice. Yeah, that's some praise, not missing a show. Now we got people that miss days in practice. I don't know why I think it's so funny. I told you about this joke book at a dollar store. It's really, they should call it $1.25 store because that's how much everything costs now. It's $1.25 with tax, like $1.38. No more is a dollar store anymore. It's that idea. I want to tell everybody my mantra is rise and shine, always rise and shine, and receive all of God's blessings and anointings throughout the day. I want to pay homage to Janie Harr of the Associated Press. But before I even do that, oh my God, I just had another epiphany. I had a prophet pray over me today on the phone for about a good 20 minutes. Said a lot of good things about health, wealth, and wisdom is coming to you. And also there'll be some static. And I'm telling you, it's amazing. And I'm going to just do the best I can to pronounce his name. Hyacinth Mvayavang. I'm only going to say it once because I want to make sure I said it right. And he was speaking French and had an interpreter. And the interpreter that was doing the interpretation for me, they're doing a business forum in Atlanta, Georgia, coming up soon. And I wanted to make sure that I mentioned it because I told them that I would talk about it today on the Big C Sports podcast. And everybody has so much talent in this world. And I just wanted to make sure that I do my part. And Soleil Marie Solo going to be doing some work down in the beautiful city of Atlanta, Georgia. It's actually a business function. And I'm just wanting to be able to appreciate everybody that's being able to sow in the Big C Sports. But I said I would do the acknowledgement today. There's a business, it's called the Badu International Business Forum in Atlanta, Georgia. It's the Badu International Business Forum and Ministry is Saturday, December the 2nd, in 2023. It's called the New Black Wall Street Market. I want to give that some praise. Give it praise. It is at 8109 Mall Parkway, Stonecrest, Georgia, 30038. And again, having someone prophesize over me today, and I tell you some things that he said came true about static and health, wealth, and wisdom. But he said you just got to stay prayed up. It's amazing what he talked about because of something I've been experiencing in life lately. But it's good, and not all of it's good, but most of it's good. I just want to give that some praise because sometimes we all need somebody to lean on, and when someone offers to prophesy over you, it's just amazing how that happens. So I really do want to thank that. And then I want to go back to also, give that some praise. It deserves some praise. But I want to also go back to paying homage to the Associated Press, Janie Harr. She did an article on reparations. And you should know by now that I'm a big proponent of reparations with the National Black Wall Street Project. And she did an article on reparations, and she called a sports guy. And she published the article on March 29th, 2023. And she called me, and I said, how'd you get my number? She said, we have our ways. I said, what made you call? She said, I heard you speak. And then I said, oh, how can I help you? She said, I heard you talk about reparations. I want to know your thoughts on reparations. And I told her my thoughts are the same as President Abraham Lincoln. I said, reparations now, reparations forever. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I also want to pay homage to CBS News, because CBS News also ran that same story. You got to give that some praise. And I'm always asking God for favor and thanking God for favor. And there's been a lot of favor coming in my life. The power of discernment. I thank God for the power of discernment. You got to give discernment some praise. And what I was prophesied on, my goodness, it happened today. It's something else. Life is amazing. I just want to do the best I can to just bring business together all over this great country, not just in real estate, but in business banking as well. So when I think about some of the things that have happened, and you just wonder, the coincidence and the timing is amazing. I'm looking for, in 2024, actually starting now, to bring on between real estate brokers and insurance brokers 1,000 people to create funding, all the United States and Canada. It's an amazing opportunity. It's business funding. We know banks have tightened up their loans lately, but all you need to qualify is 4 months bank statements, $5,000 a month minimum monthly revenue, and be in business in 6 months. They specialize in unsecured working capital, up to $5 million, no collateral, early payoff discounts, and they can fund in 1 day. You got to give that some praise, and that's through Big C Sports. And people say, well, how do I get that, Big C? You call 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. And it's the Big C team that I'm putting it out there. Again, I know I'm going to do it. I've already brought in about 20 brokers in less than 2 weeks, because it makes sense to people in real estate to have access to funding for your clients and for you business owners out there. And the SBA is taking a whole several months to get your loan approved, or even several months to deny you. Then you can get it approved within about 24 hours. 24 hours or less. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624. So that's what I'm saying, and I want to give that some praise. But I also want to go back and say I'm going to do a real estate show. It's going to be every Saturday starting in January of 2024. And I'm so excited about the things that are happening, but I've been working my tail off to make this happen, and maybe even tunnel vision. But I do want to thank God for the opportunity. So you give God praise. And real estate people, they see it, because we all need money to function. It has to go around. So I want to thank the Associated Press for their story, and also CBS News for their story with Big C Sports. I love giving that praise. Now my voice is a little bit hoarse today because I was so exhausted last night, and I just went into a good deep sleep. And in that deep sleep, I heard my pastor say, he said, after you pay the tithe, he said, sit you where the good Lord split you. I thought that was funny, because I say it all the time on my show. I don't know how my pastor got in my dreams. Anyway, give the pastor some praise for getting into my dreams. I want to pay homage to the California Reparations Task Force. See, this is big to me, because this happened in Deer Hills, California, and I'm in California, and it's one of the most seminal moments in the history of United States for Black Americans, or African Americans, or descendants of child of slavery. The Reparations Task Force, the last one was on June 29th, 2023, at 9 a.m. at the Secretary of State building. What's that got to do with the sports show, Big C? Because every sports entity, they have to have funding. Without funding, nothing happens. The whole world needs money. Ecclesiastes 10:19 said, a feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but money answers all things. And their reparations is going to be something that happens. It's going to manifest sometime in 2024. I want to give praise to the chair, Camila Moore. She's brilliant. Love giving up praise. I want to give some praise to Dr. Emmett C. Brown, the vice chair. He's brilliant. Love giving him praise. I want to give praise to the #1 senator of the United States of America, the California Senator Stephen Bradford. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. He's also responsible for name, image, and likeness, which is NIL, which helps college athletes get paid. He also helps crack the Ebony Alert that helps when young black kids go missing. They get the same attention from law enforcement that the Amber Alert does for white children. I love giving him praise. And he's part of the California Reparations Task Force. You want to support him. I'm going to have a meeting coming up with him soon. I want to thank Councilmember Monica Montgomery Steppe. She's brilliant. Love giving her praise. I want to thank Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. I want to thank Dr. Shell Grills. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Attorney Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to thank Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, Professor of California, Berkeley. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. And I want to thank Donald K. Tamaki, Attorney at Law. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. Part of the California Reparations Task Force. He's also Japanese American. That family received reparations, if that makes sense to you. I want to thank This Is CNN. Proud sponsors of Big C Sports is Caitlin Scott, The Source, weeknights, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on CNN. Proud sponsors of Big C Sports. I want to say thank you to that good old company with the cell phone. I want a cell phone. Is T-Mobile, America's largest 5G network. I want to give them some praise. Proud sponsors of Big C Sports. If that makes sense to you. So when it comes down to doing what we got to do, I may have a little bit of a sore throat because I went riding in the rain, which probably wasn't the smartest thing to do yesterday because I was getting the chills and it just didn't feel good. What did James Brown say? I feel good. So yesterday I was saying, I feel good to make it come along faster, but I think God said, get your butt some sleep, and so I got a good sleep last night. Going to get another good sleep tonight so I can feel better by the weekend, if that makes sense to you. But I love paying out, acknowledging for the reparations. Also want to thank Double O Executive Payout Committee of the National Black Wall Street Project. Sent me Executive Order 13985. It was on President Biden. Joe Biden, one of his first signatures in office, was signing Executive Order 13985. And that's on further advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. That's called the White House. You got to give President Biden some praise for that one. I know he's meeting with President Xi of China in San Francisco today. In fact, the Bay Bridge going into San Francisco from Oakland, there were protesters that blocked off. They had to sit in on the bridge, and it backed up traffic for miles and miles and miles. I don't know how it's worked out yet. I'm sure they removed everybody. But everything that's going on between Israel and Palestine, there's a lot of protests going on all over the country. And so they had a little hang-up, if that makes sense to you, going into San Francisco. Also want to thank Senator Marco Rubio and Senator Rick Scott in Florida. They reintroduced the Holocaust survivors' rights to Congress, trying to make sure that goes well. And then I want to give some praise to Georgetown University because they didn't sit where the good Lord's bitching. I don't know if that came out right. But they pledged over $1 billion in reparations to 272 family members that are descendants of chattel slavery that helped build Georgetown. That's important. Also want to thank Double O, part of the National Payout Committee for the National Black Wall Street Project, sent me an article that came out of the United Nations that says strong leadership and political will are crucial to ensure reparatory justice for people of African descent. You got to give that some praise. Everybody wants to know, when is this going to happen? What I have is going to happen in 2024. President Biden also urging Congress and the Senate to pass reparations for descendants of chattel slavery. You got to give that some praise because it's going to happen, and it's nice to be a part of things that are happening in sports. I want to say this before I get into some NFL power rankings. I know we have a game tonight with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Baltimore Ravens, but I want people to Google Freedman's Bank. Freedman's Bank is United States Bank. And people got to know it was created by Congress. And in March of 1865 to provide a place for former slaves to safely store their money. After several successful years in which Freedman deposited more than $57 million in the bank, it collapsed in 1874 because of mismanagement and fraud. The need for the bank for freed blacks became evident during the American Civil War. African-American soldiers in the Union Army were denied access to conventional banks, were often taken advantage of by swindlers. You know, people want to swindle you out of money. And they did it. And it became clear to some sympathetic military officers, as well as to advocates for civil rights, that African Americans needed a bank to ensure that their money was safe. And they had a board of 50 white trustees named to manage the bank's affairs for black Americans. And they stole the money! Stole it! And you wonder why there's such a large gap in the wealth gap between black and white in the United States. It was Freedmen's Savings and Trust Company as a nonprofit financial institution. President Abraham Lincoln immediately signed the bill into law. Why did he immediately sign it into law? Because John W. Alford, a congressional minister, and Anson M. Sperry, a United States Army paymaster, individually identified that need and attempted to foster the creation of such an institution in early 1865. Congress approved it. President Abraham Lincoln signed it. Why is that important? Because President Joe Biden, he put to Congress, the House and the Senate, a bill for reparations. President Abraham Lincoln signed it when Congress said this is good. There's over 172 endorsers of H.R. 40. That was sponsored by Sheila Jackson Lee, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, for reparations. There's 100 senators in the United States, 435 House of Representatives. You need 2/3 vote to pass a bill for the president to sign. They're almost there. Give that some praise. There are people who are looking to do it, but they tend to have a hard time finding enough black Americans who pay attention to it outside of sports. I want to touch on something before I get into the NFL. Got the NBA basketball. They suspend Draymond Green for the Golden State Warriors. 5 games. 5 games. Also want to mention that Braves Ronald Acuna, he's a unanimous National League MVP. And so I want to give him some congratulations for baseball, even though baseball's over. But going back to the NBA, Draymond Green for the Golden State Warriors, he suspended 5 games for putting Rudy Gobert in a chokehold. And Gobert called the fine shameful, said that he plans to file an appeal with the league. So the NBA suspending Golden State Warriors forward Draymond Green 5 games without pay, escalating from an on-court altercation and forcibly grabbing Minnesota Timberwolves center Rudy Gobert around the neck in an unsportsmanlike, dangerous manner. There was not a punch thrown as far as my eyes could see. The league announced the penalty on Wednesday in a statement from Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations, Joe Dumars, former bad boy for the Detroit Pistons. They would have laughed at grabbing someone around the neck. But the statement cited Green's history of unsportsmanlike acts and assessing the penalty. Now, the NBA is also fining Gobert, Klay Thompson, and Jaden McDaniels $25,000 each for their roles in Tuesday's melee between the Warriors and the Timberwolves. Now, Draymond will miss 2 games against the Oklahoma City Thunder and then others against the Houston Rockets, Phoenix Suns, and San Antonio Spurs. He'll be eligible to return November 28th against the Sacramento Kings. To me, it kind of looked like it was staged because no punches were thrown. And there was much ado about nothing. And it's not a good look for the NBA, but there were no punches thrown in this. I've seen baseball players fight. I've seen hockey players fight. I've seen NFL football players fight. Even seen basketball players fight. This was not a fight. It was like a scuffle. But the NBA came on to do what it thought was the right thing to do. But they should be spending their time on reparations, in my opinion. So Draymond had to deal with that. Obviously, Draymond, you got people watching no matter what you do. I'm not saying what he did was right, but $25,000 in a fine, 5 games missed. That's a lot of money every game that he misses. But he knew that when he came off the bench and did what he did. But either way, life goes on. It would have been better had they spent that money focusing on reparations. Still want to get Commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, meet with President Joe Biden and talk about reparations. For the majority of the NBA athletes, NBA's black Americans make up 80% of the league. What a seminal moment. If you want to do something that's right, instead of fining a man 5 games or suspending a man 5 games for an altercation, it wasn't a fight. What if you took that same energy and put in to helping the Biden administration recognize that reparations is more worth your time? That makes more sense to me. You would think so. But either way, that hasn't happened. And that's my story. I'm sticking with it. I want to say, are you ready for some football? That's a beautiful night of November the 16th, in 2023, on a beautiful Thursday. Thanksgiving is one more week away. 1 week to eat some turkeys. Well, instead of eating turkey, how about eat some Ravens or some Bengals? We got some NFL Thursday night football. It's the Baltimore Ravens right before Thanksgiving, and the Cincinnati Bengals also before Thanksgiving. Week 11 gets started as the Bengals, they get on the road to face the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are a 3.5-point favorite. The over-under is 45.5 on Thursday night football. Tonight is the night it goes down, and Baltimore all spread 11 war. Now, both teams, they come into this week having come off of a narrow losses for the Baltimore Ravens to Cleveland, and then the good old boys, Cincinnati, got spanked by Houston and another loss. So does that really factor into tonight's game? I think it may. Ravens getting 3.5 points. They were looking like they were going to win or at least play in the AFC championship game, but Cleveland came back and got that win. I mean, you got to play to the final minutes, final seconds actually. But Baltimore had not completely blown his Week 10 game at home to Cleveland. There would be an increased chance that kind of a letdown. But I don't think they're going to have a letdown tonight. Not in front of their home crowd. They'll be nuts. In fact, so many of their mistakes allowed the Browns back into that game. But I think they'll be focused more against Cincinnati tonight. They got to stay hot at home against the good old boys from Cincinnati. It's a short rest for both teams as they both played on the weekend. Cincinnati's offense is going to be missing wide receiver T. Higgins, and I expect this to be a difficult spot for the good old boys coming in from Cincinnati. I'm telling you, with the loss to the Ravens, the Bengals are not out of the playoffs, but things will get difficult because Cincinnati is a team that's desperate for a win. And more importantly, they're desperate for a win against an AFC opponent, especially in their own division. That's something that you got to look at also. Everybody knows it's about time that they figure out what they're going to do in order to get control of their division. And it's going to be hard to, because that division is very tough. It's so tough. I want to give it the chance to. Who's going to get in that division? We don't know yet. We don't know, but I'm going to give it some praise. That's a great division of football. Now think about this. The Bengals are 15-5 against the spread in their last 20 games as underdogs. 800 gambler. 15-5 against the spread. They're a 3.5-point underdog in this game. So are they saying they're going to lose by a field goal? That means they'll cover the spread. And they're 15-5 against the spread in the last 20 games. Only people in Las Vegas understand what that means. Someone might say, well, if they lost, they lost. No, when you deal with betting, it's about the spread in sports betting. So the Ravens may win by 3, and Cincinnati covers the spread. So people that bet that Baltimore would cover the spread would lose, even though Baltimore could win the game. If that makes sense to you. Now, Cincinnati can get hot also. At the same time, you got to look at Baltimore being at home, and they were up so big over Cleveland before mistakes cost them that game. I'm going with the Superman Lamar Jackson putting on that cape again tonight, and I think that it would go over the over-under, which is 45.5, because to me, both teams are more than capable of scoring at least 28 points in this game. It doesn't mean they're going to, but the winning team may have to score at least 31 to win this game. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it, and I'm going to go with the good old boys. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, I'm Superman. I like to tell you that my favorite in this game would be the Baltimore Ravens, because they're at home. If they don't get it done at home tonight, then you got to just tip the cap to Cincinnati. But I think Baltimore wins. But I don't think they cover the spread, if that makes sense to you. Just a little birdie told me. And you know a bird is a raven, if that makes sense to you. All fair and love and warm. Now, I want to get into some of the big boys and Big C's power rankings, Week 11. We got some big games coming up over the weekend because right now we're on the back nine of the NFL football season as a golf metaphor. And there are a lot of good teams that are coming around that mountain, if that makes sense to you. And I'm going to tell you in my own opinion, Week 11 of the NFL football season, we're at the point where the playoff teams are starting to separate themselves from the pretenders, and some other teams are already looking forward to the offseason. But this week's rankings, I'm telling you, I like the 49ers no matter what their record is right now. When they have everyone back, I like them a lot. They blew out Jacksonville down in Jacksonville, blew up the Jaguars. The Cleveland Browns, they made some noise by coming back to beat the Ravens, but the Ravens, I think, fumbled that game away, if that makes sense to you. But I'm going to get into Big C's NFL power rankings. Give me some praise as we get ready to rumble. I love saying that. And now, it's just my opinion. And everybody has an opinion. So it doesn't really matter what I think. What matters is what you think. So I'm going to start with my opinion of who the top 10 teams are in the NFL based on Week 11. Now, what happens over the weekend and what happens tonight, don't know, because it doesn't really matter, because any team is a playoff fumble or punt return away from winning, if that makes sense to you. But I got number 10 in Big C's NFL power rankings, and when you think about, oh my goodness, Thanksgiving Day versus San Francisco, eating all that turkey. The tryptophan in the turkey might make some people sleep. But Seattle, they're 6-3. They got a Week 12 game, Thanksgiving versus San Francisco. You could take your pick between either the two games against the 49ers in 18 days. That's a lot of knowing each other in 18 days. But I'm telling you right now, the reason Seattle and San Francisco are tied atop the NFC West at 6-3, I think is their defense. The Seahawks should have gladly taken the beginning of the season, given the 49ers' talent advantage and their dominance over Seattle last season, with 3 wins by combined score of 89-43. But the Seahawks cannot afford another sweep if they want to win the division, and I don't think they're going to win the division. But I do think they're good, and I have Seattle Seahawks at Big C's NFL Power Rankings at number 10. At number 9 in Big C's NFL Power Rankings, it's my story, and I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I know they're at Baltimore tonight, and they'll probably lose unless they win. That's going out on a limb, isn't it? But tonight, Cincinnati's margin of error is very slim. They lost to the Texans. Now, the Bengals have lost 2 against division opponents. Since the division was created in 2002, the 2011 Bengals are the only AFC North team to have 4 losses in divisional play. They got to figure out how to get their action back on offense, but the Ravens are the wrong team to try to get right with. They have so much firepower when they're healthy. I still have them at number 9, but tonight they may fall out of Big C's top 10, if that makes sense to you. I got to go number 8 in Big C's NFL Power Rankings. I'm going to go with none other than the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland, this is for you. Cleveland Browns, they are 6-3. After a stunning cover behind win in Baltimore, the Ravens, they let that get away. But Cleveland now, they have a real chance to win their first division title since 1989. However, I heard news, and I got to verify this, that Deshaun Watson may be out he has an injury, and I don't want to say something that I'm not 100% sure of, but I know what I heard didn't sound very good as far as health-wise, but I got to verify it, and I got to verify that before I say that. But I'm going to say, be that as it may, the Browns are 6-3, and they already lost in Pittsburgh in Week 2. If they can split with the Steelers with a victory this weekend, they'll be no worse than a half game back in the AFC North, and potentially even in the driver's seat heading into the back 9 of the football season. So we will see what happens with Cleveland. I got number 7 in Big C's NFL Power Rankings, and you can take this and you can put it in your cowboy hat. Oh, I just gave it away. How about those Cowboys? I got them number 7 in Big C's NFL Power Rankings. Now, the best remaining game is going to be Week 14 versus Philadelphia. If the Cowboys want to host at least one playoff game, they have to beat the Eagles. And they need to beat Philadelphia, and they need Philadelphia to stumble. Because the Eagles are rolling right now, or should I say flying. The Eagles are flying, is a better metaphor. And in the NFC East, it's just between the Cowboys and the Eagles. You're not looking at the Commanders. You're definitely not looking at the Giants. But the Cowboys have won 12 straight games at home. They've outscored their opponents 160-50 at AT&T Stadium. The Cowboys have beaten Philadelphia 5 straight times at home. But even if they win that game, their next 3 games after that are at Buffalo, should be a win. At Miami, that might be a loss. And then home versus Detroit, that should be a win because they're at home. So it's not easy for the Cowboys. But the only one I have them losing in that game is on the road at Miami, down in the humidity, what they call heat and humidity of South Florida. But they could get a win there too. But I'm still going to go with Miami getting that win at home. All's fair and level war. I got number 6. Speaking of the Miami, there's a meal called Moons Over Miami. I think that's what it's called. Moons Over Miami. I think it has to do with eggs over some toast. But I got the Miami Dolphins. They're 6-3. Now their biggest remaining week is Week 17 at Baltimore, the Ravens. Now the Dolphins, they play a stretch of 3 games at the end of the season against high-end opponents, but this road game against the Ravens, it can impact the AFC playoff seedings. Now Miami, they're yet to beat a team with a winning record. Isn't that something? In this season, and won't get much opportunity to do so until the final stretch. Now the Dolphins, this is not the 72 undefeated Dolphins, even though they were rolling at one point. The Dolphins' 3rd game in as many years against the Baltimore Ravens could determine the conference's top seed. Both teams remain in striking distance of the current leader, Kansas City Chiefs, with touchdown Patrick. There's no place like Mahomes. And the Ravens' elite defense that did not look so elite against Cleveland, it will also provide another opportunity for Miami to prove that his offense can perform on the road against a very tough defensive opponent. And this year is going to be inclement weather up in Baltimore, so I got to go with the Ravens to win that. Miami's not used to playing in the cold. They used to playing in the rain of Florida, but not the cold of the Northeast. And now, speaking of the Northeast, in Big C's NFL Power Rankings, and people don't have to agree with it. I got the Baltimore Ravens. They are 7-3. And they got the game tonight versus Cincinnati. They got to win that game. And since Baltimore's 4th quarter collapse against Cleveland, the Ravens' grip on the AFC North has become a little bit less tight, if that makes sense to you. So that's why Thursday night, to me, is not good for NFL players. They just played on Sunday. Now they got to play on Thursday. They don't have a time to rest. Most NFL teams, when they play on Sunday, they have a day off on a Monday or a Tuesday. And they usually travel on a Friday to get to the stadium by Saturday. By Saturday and practice around, walk arounds. Where they're playing on Thursday for both teams. It's just not healthy for the human body. But at the same time, you play to win the game. The Ravens team pursuing their first AFC North title in 4 years. And a win over Cincinnati allows Baltimore to stay in first place in the division and will push its lead over the 2-time division champions Bengals to 2.5 games. Now, a loss will knock the Ravens out of first place in the AFC North for the first time all season long. And that would give Superman Lamar Jackson his first losing streak since 2021. I don't think Baltimore loses that game. But they play to win the game. That's why they play the game. So that's my thought, and I'm sticking with it. I got to get to number 4 in Big C's NFL Power Rankings. Now, people have their own opinion, and opinions are like wings. Everybody likes a wing. I'm trying to make that funny. I'm feeling a bit tired. I got the Detroit Bad Boys, also known as the Detroit Lions. I got them at Big C's number 4 team in Big C's NFL Power Rankings. They are 7-2 on the season. Who would have thought they would be 7-2 on the season? And their biggest remaining game is Week 17 at Dallas. The Lions top the NFC North standings, and they have a fairly smooth schedule for the remainder of the regular season against mostly teams with subpar records. And Detroit's annual Thanksgiving game versus Green Bay, it should be fun. And then Week 16 at Minnesota could be for a divisional title. And Detroit, they get to play on Turkey Day. You know what a turkey would do if it really had a lion? It would maul it. We'll see if they'll look at Maul and Green Bay on Turkey Day, if that makes sense to you. Now, the Lions, they have a game that's going to be the most significant game down the back nine, and that's going to be on the road at Dallas. Now, Dallas hasn't lost at home in 12 games. It's a primetime matchup on ESPN December 30th, right before Christmas Eve, or right before New Year's Eve. So they're trying to get the top seed in the NFC and lock down a home game in postseason for the first time at Ford Field. Give them some praise just for turning their season around, because that's a team that's been on the rise the last 2 years. So I love looking at them. And now I got number 3, and it's just my opinion. I got number 3 in Big C's NFL Power Rankings. I'm going to go, oh my goodness, people may not agree with this. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. They are 7-2. They have a Week 17 matchup versus Cincinnati. Touchdown Patrick, the no place like Mahomes, versus Joe Burrow. They're going to face off late in the season. This new rivalry game, it could carry tie-breaking consequences for playoff seedings. It also could be a chance, depending on how Cincinnati fares between now and then, for the Chiefs to nudge the Bengals out of the postseason altogether. And then you got to look at people like Touchdown Patrick, no place like Mahomes. He's thrown more interceptions this year than at any time in his career. But at the same time, people expect that Kansas City will always figure out a way to win. Why is that? Perhaps because they've been to the AFC Championship game, I think 5 years now. And they've been to 3 Super Bowls out of those 5 championship appearances. That's pretty good. But will they get back there again this year? The odds are against them because it's hard to do that. Back to back to back to back to back to back. But we'll have to see. Mahomes has to cut down on the turnovers. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And now I'm going to go, people look at the records before they start saying what team should be number 1, etc. And it's my opinion. So people might say, oh, your opinion sucks, Curry. I'm going to go with number 2 in Big C's NFL Power Rankings. It may come as a shock. It may come as a surprise. But it's my opinion. I got the Philadelphia Eagles. What? Philadelphia Eagles? Number 2? Yeah, I got them number 2 right now. Because they're 8-1. Their biggest remaining game is Week 14 at Dallas. They were at home against Dallas, and Dallas had a 4th and goal. And the receiver, the tight end, caught the ball at the goal line, but his knee was down before the ball went across the goal line. They could have beaten Philadelphia. Also, Dak Prescott going on a 2-point conversion. He barely stepped out of bounds. They could have beaten Philadelphia. Coulda, woulda. If I won all the numbers on the Powerball, I have $200 million. Yeah, that's true. But I'm telling you right now, Dallas should have won that game against Philadelphia, at Philadelphia. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. The Eagles hold a 2-game lead over the Dallas Cowboys. They play a trio of contenders in Kansas City. That may be a loss. The Buffalo Bills, that'll be a win. And then they have the 49ers. That's going to determine a lot. And those teams have combined 18 combined wins this season before that trip to Dallas. So Philly's not going to finish with 1 loss in the regular season. I see them losing 2 more times. The Cowboys have a friendlier slate with the Carolina Panthers. That's a win. The Washington Commanders. That's a win. And the Seattle Seahawks. I'm up in the air about that one. But the division race could be tight in the NFC East when they score off in Big Dallas on December 10th. That, you can't just look at the team and say they have 1 loss, so they're the best team. They lost that game to the Jets on a pick 6. It was in New York, but they've been winning games really closely. Yeah, their record's great, and I know they might boo Santa Claus in Philadelphia, but I think they're slippery. They're a close second because I think they're just on par with Kansas City. But what are you trying to say, Curry? I'm saying Big C's number 1 team this week at NFL football is dim there bang bang 90 game. How about the bang bang 90 game? I got the San Francisco 49ers. What? 49ers? Yes. They're 6-3. They lost their 3 games when they had players injured. Deebo Samuel was injured. Trent Williams was injured. Christian McCaffrey was injured in the Cleveland game. A number of things add up, but they got healthy at the right time. Their biggest week is week 12 of Thanksgiving at Seattle. On the road, a game they will most likely win. So when you think about the 49ers, they are a championship caliber team. And Shanahan has been to 2 NFC championship games, actually 3 in the last 5 years. And they were there again last year. They were there the year before last at the Rams, and they lost at Philadelphia. They may have to play it on the road again, either at Philadelphia, or that would be it, I would think. But I think Philly's still going to win the division unless Dallas goes on a tear. But that's what the 49ers face. So if you put them in a championship game, a rematch against the Eagles because of what it could mean for the NFC playoff picture, the NFC West has to be the first priority for the 49ers. They got to beat Seattle. They'll beat the Rams, and they'll beat the Cardinals. It's about winning at Seattle on Thanksgiving Day. If they do that, I think they can run the table. I know they got to play Philly, but Philly's not. When the 49ers are healthy, I think they're the better team. So the Thanksgiving Day is so important for this Niners squad. They got to find a way to win that game in Seattle, and I think they will. It will put them in prime position to claim the division crown of the NFC West. And since the 2012, the 49ers have won in Seattle just twice. Both times they've done it in 2019 and 2022, they've gone on to win the NFC West. There's no reason that they won't win the West this year because they're so loaded. I mean, they have Kittle's a great tight end, Brandon Ayuk, Jennings on the wideouts, and then McCaffrey running the ball with Deebo Samuel, and then Brock Purdy, consistent quarterback. He's not trying to throw 50 yards downfield, but getting those 10, 15, 20-yard passes, he can do it, and he's even accurate under 40 yards. Their defense, with Chase Young now, Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, that three-headed defensive line with Fred Warner, Roman at the linebacker spot. The secondary is solid, but it's their up front that beat up on Jacksonville. Jacksonville had won 5 in a row, looking as good as any team in the NFL. And the 49ers went on the road. They played an early game, and they blew them out. And Jacksonville was playing as well as anybody on the season, at least the last 5 weeks. But the 49ers made them look just like an average team. And I think that's the team you're going to see going down the stretch because, again, they are healthy now. And that's what you need in order to win the division. I'm going to just throw a little bit of more attention on some of the other teams that are not in Big C's top 10, but I think they're still good football teams, and they're waiting for someone to get an upset. The Pittsburgh Steelers, under Coach Mike Tomlin, they've never had a losing season under Mike Tomlin. Well, they're 6-3. Their biggest remaining game is versus Cleveland. They're sitting at second place in the AFC North with 2 wins against the Ravens and the Browns. The Steelers can further cement their place near the top of the division by sweeping Cleveland in a rematch of their first meeting. When you think about it, T.J. Watt had a scoop and score decided that game. Their defense has been sticking with them. I'm going to bring another team that's making some noise, kind of as just for a mention. The Houston Texans, head coach DeMeco Ryans, he has them playing good football. They're 5-4 in the season. Their biggest game is Week 12 versus Jacksonville. It's so pivotal for many reasons. The Texans already have convincing wins over the Jaguars in Week 3. And they trailed the Jaguars by just 1 game in the AFC South. Could you imagine the Houston Texans making the playoffs? The Texans have had the Jaguars number since 2014. They've won 16 of the past 19. That's impressive. And they have a great defense this year. And C.J. Stroud's playing good football. I'm going to close out with just a few more teams. The Buffalo Bills are 5-5, disappointing right now. And their biggest remaining game is Week 14 at Kansas City. There's an argument to be made that the final game of the season at the Dolphins is a big because of how close the top of the AFC East could be. And to me, Buffalo's sliding down right now. This is the team that many people picked to be in the AFC Championship game the last couple of years. I don't see that happening this year. The Minnesota Vikings, without Kirk Cousins, they're 6-4. Week 16 versus Detroit. They could pull themselves out of a 1-4 start with consecutive wins, and Justin Jefferson is on injured reserve. This is a team in Minnesota. They just don't quit. Kirk Cousins tears his Achilles, and people thought their season was over. But they just keep winning. And that's all you can do is you got to win the game that you're playing, and that's what the Vikings are doing. So I want to give the Vikings a lot of credit for what they're doing and haven't given up on the season. They're hanging in there. And I got a lot of respect for them. I really do for the Minnesota Vikings. Lose your starting quarterback, and you come in and keep playing. The Chargers, a little bit of a disappointment again. They're 4-5. Their biggest game remaining is Week 11 at Green Bay. That's not really a big game because Green Bay's not playing well. The Chargers dropped to 4-5 after Sunday's loss to the Detroit Lions, moving them to third place in the AFC West and the 12th seed in the conference. New Orleans, they are 5-5 on the season, and their biggest remaining game is Week 12 at Atlanta. The Saints will be coming off their bye week and a poor showing against the Vikings that saw 3 starters get hurt. They sit on top of the NFC South because of the struggling division, but they need to regain confidence, and I don't know if they will. I got another team that people expected a lot from this year. That's the Indianapolis Colts. They're 5-5 on the season. Their biggest game remaining is Week 14 at Cincinnati. They're suddenly a factor in the wild card race in the AFC. They have a pretty good schedule down the stretch, but it's a matchup against talented AFC foes that figure to be fighting for a wild card spot too. So I don't think the Colts are going to get into the wild card spot. That's just my story. I'm sticking with it. I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Also consideration, they're only 4-5. That's not good for a team, but it's not bad for a team in their division. And their biggest remaining Week 17 versus New Orleans. It's a toss-up between Week 17 versus the Saints and Week 14 at the Falcons, as both of these teams have pretty easy schedules. So we got to see what happens with them. And I'm going to end it with the Washington Commanders. They're 4-6, maybe a coaching change coming. They have the biggest remaining game, Week 12, Thanksgiving Day at Dallas. You know, at Dallas, they're not going to beat Dallas. Dallas has won 12 in a row at home, and this game's on Thanksgiving. It's a very big game for Washington, but I think it's too big to ask them to go down into Dallas in the heart of Cowboy country and try to get a win over Dak Prescott and those good old boys from the Cowboy State. Well, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. Big C's thoughts on Big C's NFL power rankings. I like the 49ers. They got to win at Seattle. Or I may have egg on my face. But I've had egg on my face before, and it tastes pretty good if that makes sense to you, especially when it's an omelet. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I also want to just mention again the Badu International Business Forum in Atlanta, Georgia. It's called the Black Wall Street Market at 8109 Mall Parkway in Stonecrest, Georgia, 30038. It's Saturday, December 2nd, 2023. It's the International Business Forum and Ministry. I want to give that some praise. Also got the chance to talk to a good pastor today, a bishop. And he gave me a nice reading. And there's a lot of good things coming from Big C Sports. I felt that before the reading, but it's always nice when someone kind of affirms what you feel through your own prayers and manifestations. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I do appreciate everything great that's happening in the world of Big C Sports. As I always tell you, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You could call Uber, you could call Lyft, you could walk it off, you can sleep it off. But don't get behind the wheel of a car when you've been drinking, because the life you save may be your own or somebody you love. Well, that's my story. and I'm sticking with it. Well, you know what time it is. Back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, he said, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali would say, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat because listening to Big C Sports makes me want to say reparations now, reparations forever. And it makes me float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. My beautiful mother always says there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, pick up the phone and call 911. Because when the police show up, people change. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Well, as you know what I always say, it's now time to honor President Abraham Lincoln, America's 16th president. Come on, NFL. Come on, NBA, you can do it. I'm going to tell you, when it comes to reparations, I want to honor President Abraham Lincoln, and I pray that Joe Biden and President Xi are talking about reparations for descendants of child of slavery. What did President Abraham Lincoln say? He said, reparations now, reparations forever. Now let's say it as if your team just won the game. Say reparations now, reparations forever. Now say it like your team just won the championship of the universe. What did President Abraham Lincoln say to Joe Biden in Congress? He said, reparations now, reparations forever. I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.